of the most interesting of your festivals, to me at least, has been the Festival of Lights, called Hanukkah. Could you tell us something about that? Perhaps the origins of it, just to begin with.
Well, the Festival of Hanukkah originated from the battle that was fought about 3,500 years ago, and it was a battle of the Maccabean. The temple was desecrated by the Assyrians, who were in the ruling power at that time in the Holy Land, or the state of Palestine. And of course, they had desecrated the temple, and they only found one vial of oil that still remained pure or kosher, meaning ritually clean. It had the stamp of the Kohanim, who were the high priests, and the Levites could then use it in the temple. They felt that this would only last for one evening, but the miracle of it is that it lasted for 8 days. Now, in commemoration of this battle and of this miracle, we presently use a menorah in our homes, which is as you see here. There are 8 candles, one for each night of the celebration. One is lit on every evening until the 8 are complete. Now, we have the shamus, which is the gentleman, if you want to call him, right here. He's up on a pedestal. He's higher than the others. And from this one, we take it in our hands and we light all the others, always using the shamus to light all the others.
You call that the boss candle?
Well, you could call him the boss. He's the boss of all the others. Usually it's elevated. This is a fairly modern menorah, so the elevation is perhaps not that noticeable, but it is elevated. In order for it to be kosher or ritually clean, it does have to be elevated.
I see. The story about Hanukkah, has this been passed by oral tradition, or is it found written somewhere? It must be a very ancient story. This must have happened, how long ago? Thousands of years?
Well, 3,500 years ago was the first.
So has this been written then?
Oh, yes, it would have been written down and carried on from generation to generation. You see, the scrolls, or our Hebrew Torah, was transportable. So that's how our culture remained alive and vibrant, the fact that it could be carried in an ark or, a covenant. They could carry it through the desert so that they carried it with them wherever they went. If they should have lost the ability to read or carry the Torah, they would have lost their culture or their faith, because there were so many tractates and so many laws that dictated to the way that they lived and the way they thought. As I said, it was a way of life with them.
That's why the expression, show me that it's written, perhaps is so important. I've heard that this
or
is
where
often,
is it written?
Where
right.
is it written?
Right.
Yes. During the festival of Hanukkah, what goes on in the synagogue?
Well, generally, they have services for it, and in order to have a service, they have to have 10 males over the age of 13, which is the age of reason, or the age when they come into the covenant. When they have a bar mitzvah, after that, their duty is to attend services, and they are eligible to be part of this minyan or quorum. They have services every night, and also during Hanukkah, they also have a Hanukkah party or carnival or show, which our rabbi had this year. I believe you attended. And they had a potluck supper where they served traditional foods along with whatever was going. One of the traditional foods I would imagine you'd like to know is what they call potato latkes, potato pancakes. It's grated potato. You can use, well, it depends on the quantities that you need. They're usually quite good, so, we're usually a grating. Of course, today there is food processors a little easier. And then you have your eggs go into it and your flour, and you heat up a pan of oil very hot, and you spoon it on, and they get very crispy and brown. They're served with applesauce, or they can be served with sour cream, or again with a dab of sugar on it. And the children, they usually have what they call a latke party. The children really enjoy it, and the adults too. Again, we exchange gifts every day for the 8 days. It's a very joyous, happy occasion, because they were back in the temple and they did have enough oil and they were able to continue with their services.
Right. As I recall, at the concert that I attended, the potato pancakes went first.
Right,
that plate
right,
empties very
yes,
quickly.
because, well, they're best eaten as they come off the pan, but they can be frozen. They're not, they sometimes tend to get a little soggy when this happens,
I
but
see.
you usually vie to get them right off out of the pan. And again, I had mentioned the dreidels. Dreidels was a tops, a game of top, like a little top, a little spin top. And on it were Hebrew letters. Now, during this time in history, 3,500 years ago, the Jewish language and form of religion was forbidden because the Jews were slaves or occupied at this time. So in order to counteract that, they developed a game of what they call tops. And they twirled them, and wherever the letter fell, they could bet on what letter. So they made it look like they were earning money, which I suppose they gave to the children. But at the same time, they were learning the Hebrew alphabet. So our children are usually given little dreidels, and they spin with it, and they have little games of chance. You heard the little song, dreidel, 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 I made it out of clay.
Right, yeah.
So it's also a very important part of Hanukkah. In Israel, it's very well celebrated, being the Jewish or Hebrew state. They have many parties going on. The homes are decorated with the big blown-up dreidels, which are sometimes hard to get here, and the other Hanukkah emblems, such as the menorahs. They're in the windows, and they have big Hanukkah parties.
I see. It sounds like a time of joy.
Right,
for
an
the
8
Jewish
days,
people.
yeah, they're out in the street, and they have many Israeli dance groups that are performing during this time as well.
Right. Are there any feasts in the Jewish religion that are a time of sadness or commemorate a more